Chapter 8. Liza ill. Next morning, Velchaninov walked about his room, expecting Pavel Pavlovitch, who had promised to arrive in good time to go to the Pogoryeltsevs. As he smoked and sipped his coffee, he was conscious at every moment that he was like a man who, on waking up in the morning, cannot forget for one instant that he has received a slap in the face overnight. He quite understands the position, and will take his revenge on me through Liza, he thought with horror. The charming figure of the poor child rose mournfully before him for a moment. His heart beat faster at the thought that he would soon, within 2 hours, see his Liza again. It's no use talking about it, he decided hotly. It's my whole life, and my whole object now. What do slaps in the face, or memories of the past, matter? What has my life been till now? Muddle and sadness. But now, it's all different. Everything's changed. But in spite of his enthusiasm, he grew more and more doubtful. He is tormenting me by means of Liza. That's clear. And he is tormenting Liza too. It's in that way he will devour me utterly in revenge for everything. Of course, I can't allow him to go on as he did yesterday. He flushed crimson all at once. And here it's 12 o'clock, though he doesn't come. He waited a long time, till 12:30, and his depression grew more and more acute. Pavel Pavlovitch did not appear. At last, the thought that had long been stirring in his mind, that Pavel Pavlovitch had not come on purpose, simply in order to get up another scene like that of the night before, put the finishing touch to his irritation. He knows that I depend on him, and what a state Liza will be in now. And how can I appear before her without him? At last he could stand it no longer, and at 1 o'clock he rushed off to the Pokrovsky Hotel alone. At the lodging he was told that Pavel Pavlovitch had not slept at home, but had only turned up at 9 o'clock in the morning, had stayed no more than a quarter of an hour, and then gone out again. Velchaninov stood at the door of Pavel Pavlovitch's room, listening to what the servant said, and mechanically turned the handle of the locked door and pulled it backwards and forwards. Realizing what he was doing, he uttered a curse, and asked the servant to take him to Marya Sisoyevna. But the landlady, hearing he was there, came out readily. She was a good-natured woman. A woman with generous feelings, as Velchaninov said of her when he was reporting his conversation afterwards to Klavdia Petrovna. Inquiring briefly about his journey with the child the day before, Marya Sisoyevna launched out into accounts of Pavel Pavlovitch's doings. In her words, "If it had not been for the child, she would have sent him about his business long ago. He was turned out of the hotel because of his disorderly behavior. Wasn't it wicked to bring home a wench with him when there was a child here old enough to understand? He was shouting, 'She will be your mother if I choose!' And, would you believe it, what that street wench did? She even spat in his face. 'You're not my daughter, but he's a—' she cried." "Really?" Velchaninov was horrified. "I heard it myself. Though the man was drunk till he was almost senseless, yet it was very wrong before the child. Though she is but young, she broods over everything in her mind. The child cries. I can see she is worried to death. And the other day there was a terrible thing done in our building. A clerk, so folks say, took a room in the hotel overnight, and in the morning hanged himself. They say he had squandered all his money. People flocked to see. Pavel Pavlovitch was not at home, and the child was running about with no one to look after her. I looked, and there she was in the passage among the people, and peeping in behind the others. She was looking so strangely at the body. I brought her away as quickly as I could. And what do you think? She was all of a tremble. She looked quite black in the face, and as soon as I brought her in, she flopped on the floor in a faint. She struggled and writhed, and it was all I could do to bring her round. It was a fit, and she's been poorly ever since that hour. He heard of it, came home, and pinched her all over, for he's not one for beating, he's more given to pinching her, and afterwards, when he came home after having a drop, he'd frighten her. "I'll hang myself too," he'd say. "You'll make me hang myself, on this blind cord here," he'd say, and he'd make a noose before her eyes. And she'd be beside herself. She'd scream and throw her little arms round him. "I won't," she'd cry. "I never will again." It was pitiful. Though Velchaninov had expected something strange, this story amazed him so much that he could not believe it. Marya Sisoyevna told him a great deal more. On one occasion, for instance, had it not been for Marya Sisoyevna, Liza might have thrown herself out of the window. Velchaninov went out of the house reeling as though he were drunk. "I'll knock him on the head like a dog," was the thought that floated before his mind, and for a long time he kept repeating it to himself. He took a cab and drove to the Pogoryeltsevs. On the way, the carriage was obliged to stop at the crossroads, near the bridge on the canal, over which a long funeral procession was passing. And on both sides of the bridge there were several carriages waiting in a block. People on foot were stopped too. It was a grand funeral, and there was a very long string of carriages following it. And lo and behold, in the windows of one of these carriages, Velchaninov caught a passing glimpse of the face of Pavel Pavlovitch. He would not have believed his eyes if Pavel Pavlovitch had not thrust his head out and nodded to him with a smile. Evidently he was delighted at recognizing Velchaninov. He even began beckoning to him from the carriage. Velchaninov jumped out of his cab and, in spite of the crush, in spite of the police, and in spite of the fact that Pavel Pavlovitch's carriage was driving onto the bridge, he ran right up to the window. Pavel Pavlovitch was alone. "What's the matter with you?" cried Velchaninov. "Why didn't you come? How is it you are here?" "I'm repaying a debt." "Don't shout, don't shout. I am repaying a debt," sniggered Pavel Pavlovitch, screwing up his eyes jocosely. "I am following the mortal remains of my faithful friend, Stepan Mikhailovitch." "That's all nonsense! You drunken, senseless man!" Velchaninov shouted louder than ever, though he was taken aback for an instant. "Get out this minute, and come into the cab with me." "I can't. It's a duty." "I'll drag you out," Velchaninov yelled. "And I'll scream, said Pavel Pavlovitch, sniggering as jocosely as before, as though it were a game, though he did huddle into the furthest corner of the carriage. "Look out! Look out! You'll be run over!" shouted a policeman. At the further end of the bridge, a carriage cutting across the procession did, in fact, cause a commotion. Velchaninov was forced to skip back. The stream of carriages and the crowd of people immediately carried him further away. With a curse, he made his way back to the cab. "No matter. I couldn't have taken a fellow like that with me at any rate," he thought, with a feeling of bewildered anxiety that persisted. When he told Klavdia Petrovna Marya Sisoyevna's story, and described the strange meeting in the funeral procession, she grew very thoughtful. "I feel afraid for you," she said. "You ought to break off all relations with him, and the sooner the better." "He's a drunken fool, and nothing more," Velchaninov cried passionately. "As though I could be afraid of him. And how can I break off relations with him when there's Liza to be considered? Think of Liza." Liza, meanwhile, was lying ill. She had begun to be feverish the evening before, and they were expecting a celebrated doctor, for whom they had sent an express messenger to the town in the morning. This completed Velchaninov's distress. Klavdia Petrovna took him to the invalid. "I watched her very carefully yesterday," she observed, stopping outside Liza's room. "She's a proud and reserved child. She is ashamed that she is here, and that her father has cast her off. That's the whole cause of her illness, to my thinking." "How cast her off? Why do you say he's cast her off?" "The very fact that he let her come here, among complete strangers, and with a man who's almost a stranger too, or on such terms." "But it was I took her. I took her by force. I don't perceive—" "Oh, my God! And even Liza, a child, perceives it. It's my belief that he simply won't come at all." Liza was not astonished when she saw Velchaninov alone. She only smiled mournfully, and turned her feverishly hot little head to the wall. She made no response to Velchaninov's timid efforts to comfort her, and his fervent promises to bring her father next day without fail. On coming away from her, he suddenly burst into tears. It was evening before the doctor came. After examining the patient, he alarmed them all from the first word, by observing that they had done wrong not to have sent for him before. When it was explained to him that the child had been taken ill only the evening before, he was at first incredulous. "It all depends how things go on tonight," he said in conclusion. After giving various instructions, he went away, promising to come again next day as early as possible. Velchaninov would have insisted on staying the night, but Klavdia Petrovna begged him once more to try and bring that monster. "Try once more," Velchaninov retorted in a frenzy. "Why, this time I'll tie him hand and foot and carry him here in my arms." The idea of tying Pavel Pavlovitch hand and foot and carrying him there took possession of him, and made him violently impatient to carry it out. "I don't feel in the least guilty towards him now. Not in the least," he said to Klavdia Petrovna, as he said goodbye. "I take back all the abject, sniveling things I said here yesterday," he added indignantly. Liza was lying with her eyes shut, apparently asleep. She seemed to be better. When Velchaninov cautiously bent over her head, to say goodbye and to kiss, if only the edge of her garment, she suddenly opened her eyes, as though she had been expecting him, and whispered to him, "Take me away." It was a gentle, pitiful prayer, without a shade in it of the irritability of the previous day, but at the same time he could hear in it the conviction that he would not do what she asked. Velchaninov, in complete despair, began trying to persuade her that this was impossible. In silence, she closed her eyes and did not utter another word, as though she did not see or hear him. On getting into Petersburg, he told the driver to take him straight to Pokrovsky Hotel. It was 10 o'clock. Pavel Pavlovitch was not in his lodging. Velchaninov spent a full half-hour in waiting for him, and walking up and down the passage in sickening suspense. Marya Sisoyevna assured him at last that Pavel Pavlovitch would not be back till early next morning. "Then I will come early in the morning," Velchaninov decided, and, beside himself, he set off for home. But what was his astonishment when, at the door of his flat, he learned from Mavra that his yesterday's visitor had been waiting for him since 10 o'clock. "And has been pleased to drink tea here, and has sent out for wine again, and has given me a blue note to get it,"